Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard, that's optional. Start a story. Adopt a shelter or rescue pet today. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Allison is perfect. I mean, she'd never tell you that. She's humble and perfect. She likes everyone. She even likes her untidy roommate's weird guinea pig. Allison, wait, are you texting and driving? Allison, no. That's the exact opposite of what I was just saying about you. Why, Allison? Why? Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
We are live outside the home of Joe and Rosie Goddard, where a pretty big tickle fight broke out just minutes ago. Sources say their father instigated the laughter. Let's go inside for a comment. Apparently, they have no comment. Dads, let this be a reminder that it only takes a moment to make a moment. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Western Reserve Radio is the Valley's online source for sports talk and local live events. Tune in and be a part of their live weekly shows, as well as all of the hard-hitting action of Youngstown Phantoms hockey, high school football, and the GDFL. Find them at westernreserveradio.com. Tune in and the Live 365 app to be a part of the area's sports conversation. Be sure to visit them on Facebook at Western Reserve Radio and on Twitter at WR_radio.
The stations that always keep you in the zone.
I love it.
It's awesome.
Western Reserve Radio, Western Reserve Radio 2, and City View Sportscast, Youngstown, Ohio.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. Take one.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Ina's Pierogi House is your home for the area's best variety of pierogies. Daily specials include the Polish platter, the Hungarian platter, stuffed cabbage, and halushki. Having a last-minute get-together? Lena's has you covered with a wide variety of frozen take-home pierogies and dumplings. Go to Facebook at Lena's Pierogi House to see the weekly lineup of available flavors for dine-in or carry-out. Catch the best at Lena's Monday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Tuesday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 20 North Main Street in Hubbard or call 234-254-8532.
During the fall and winter, grilling season never ends, and Gessler Propane is your local supplier that makes sure you get your hard-earned money's worth. Why go to gas exchanges to pay higher prices for tanks not filled to capacity? Gessler Propane makes sure you're prepared for year-round grilling with 100% filled tanks at a reasonable cost. See Bob Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 3 at Gessler Propane, 702 Youngstown Poland Road, Struthers, or call 330-755-9119. Gessler Propane. They got gas.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's time to kick back and listen to the Sports Page with your host, Pat Lucia, right here on Western Reserve Radio. You can call the show at 330-707-4202 and tell everyone what's on your mind in the wonderful world of sports. Now, here's your host, Pat Lucia.
Saturday morning Sports Page, Pat Lucia, 330-707-4202 on Western Reserve Radio. Give us a call if you want to talk sports. We do it every Saturday morning here. And here is Western Reserve Radio. A lot going on in the world of sports for March. Got a lot to get to. Big trade in the NFL last night. It looks like, or I guess it doesn't really look like, it is now official. The Raiders will acquire Geno Smith from the Seattle Seahawks for a third-round pick. So the Raiders have their quarterback. Geno Smith is now reunited with his old coach, Pete Carroll. Basically, the Raiders gave up the 92nd pick overall in the 2025 draft, a third-round pick. So they will get Geno Smith. Geno Smith has 1 year left on his contract, which pays him $31 million. So basically, the Raiders will take on all of the $31 million. They've agreed to that. They give a third-round pick. And the Seahawks get to save $31 million in cash in the cap space while taking on a $13.5 million dead hit cap on money. So that's what you have going on as far as a real quick look. Get to the other NFL buzz going on. It's obviously with the draft coming up, and now the draft is only about a month and change away. Going to be here very quick at the end of April. And looks like speculation is, especially in the New York market, what will the Giants and the Jets do? Speaking of the New York Jets, open up that little door to what Sam Darnold is going to do. It looks like now, since Seattle traded their quarterback, Geno Smith, away, word is that they're very interested in going after Sam Darnold. It was out earlier last week that the Vikings have made the determination they will not franchise tag Sam Darnold. So he's a free agent. He's willing to go anywhere he wants to go. And now it looks like the Seattle Seahawks are pretty much trading away their star quarterback, Geno Smith, for getting Sam Darnold as a free agent. They're going to have to obviously work out that contract with Sam Darnold, but that's if he does sign with them. But it looks like it appears now that Sam Darnold is talking to the Seattle Seahawks, and in essence, Seattle is supplementing, I guess, they're substituting Geno Smith with Sam Darnold. So that's kind of what's going on. That's kind of one of the pieces of the puzzle. When you sit back and look at this whole NFL situation with the quarterbacks, which basically right now is always front and center. Quarterbacks dictate where a team is going. The team, like the Raiders, knew they needed to do something with the quarterback situation. That's so obvious. They needed the quarterback. They had no quarterback. Now that they've got their quarterback in Geno Smith, now you can start at least building a team around him. So the quarterback puzzle, as I like to call it, is starting to fall into place piece by piece here. Geno Smith now a Raider. Darnold looks like he's probably, at least rumor is, going to Seattle, or at least that's what we're led to believe. Who knows? That could obviously change. And now it leaves the teams like Cleveland, the Giants, Tennessee, who happened to be the first three picks in the draft. Will Tennessee go ahead, take Cam Ward? Shedeur Sanders allegedly is dropping in the draft because he made comments that evidently were some of the GMs were taken back by his cockiness, which makes absolute no sense whatsoever. I haven't run into a quarterback today, especially a rookie quarterback. Got to be a little cocky, got to have a little edge to him. I think that's a plus. I don't know what is going on. I don't know if this is just, again, pure speculation. The Shedeur Sanders may drop in the draft because he made some comments at the combine that people got upset about, which, again, he's 22, 23 years old. He didn't say anything I haven't heard before about, cockiness and all that. And another one, we'll get to the Charles Barkley comments he made on TNT a couple nights ago, which were just absolutely hysterical, calling out ESPN. Dave Clark here in studio.
I'm sorry.
We have to laugh because it is just pure, unadulterated Charles Barkley at his finest. And just the fact that we know it's kind of a slower sports news part of the year. This is kind of the February, March is always kind of a dead,
Yeah.
And Charles Barkley gets on and makes everybody's day by making comments about ESPN. Just Charles Barkley is just the best. Charles Barkley's he blasts idiot ESPN host Kendrick Perkins. And he actually threw the whole ESPN under it. He called them all. He goes, "We got to work with these people next year." He went further out. I mean, so we'll open up that door. And then I don't know. Then LeBron Smith and Stephen A. Smith, LeBron Smith. So LeBron James standing up, then I don't even know where to go with all this. We'll get to that one. LeBron James, after the overtime win at the Knicks, and the Knicks really aren't going anywhere in the playoffs. I'm a Knicks fan. It's just reality. They're not getting past Cleveland or Boston, but that's okay. But after the game, it's been all over if Twitter and the internet. He went over to Stephen A. Smith, said something to Stephen A. Smith. Evidently, it was about Bronny, and Stephen A. addressed it the following day in the show, and pretty much kind of just didn't. He kind of, he didn't make a big thing of it.
Right.
So people are buzzing about that, and then we'll get to the whole LeBron James and Bronny, and I don't know. Anyway, but getting back to the original quarterback situation. We do flip and flop all over, and I am the worst offender of that. But as you could see, there's a lot out there to get to, and then we have the bubble teams. Ohio State, Indiana play tomorrow in college basketball.
Yeah,
that's almost a big game because those two teams. I love looking at Joe Lunardi's bracketology.
Yeah.
He's the best.
Time. It's starting to get the energy. I watched the girls.
Yeah,
Big Ten
the women are. Yeah,
and I was like, okay, I'm getting revved.
Right.
It was pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
No, good energy.
Right now, the women's college basketball tournament, their conference tournaments are going on now.
Right.
And I was at the gym yesterday watching, and they're into it. And and those games are really good games to watch.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a lot of great TV on basketball is now really college, and even the NBA is now heating up.
Yeah,
and you can see these teams are getting into the playoffs and in position. They only have about a month left.
Yeah, my beloved Knicks. Hi, Kevin Durant. Next year, probably. I guess that's all I can say. That's the rumors. They better hope they can get somebody like that team with
they're
Towns
missing the one.
And Brunson. I think that could put them. They'll put them in the conversation for sure. But right now, it's just something's missing.
Yeah, like I said, there's so much going on. You've got LeBron James. The Lakers are playing great.
Yeah, they are.
They've been playing really good. People are now looking at them potentially as, could they win another title with this team? They're in the discussion.
Right.
On a roll. Luka Doncic, people didn't think he and LeBron could play together.
Yes.
That don't
look like an issue at all.
None at all. They're rolling in the West. Got a lot going on there. It looks like now Kirk Cousins is going to be staying with Atlanta. He'll be the backup to Michael Penix.
Yeah. That's really a great situation. Maybe he wants to be a starter, but for Atlanta, that is a good situation because Penix has any issues or anything going. You got a veteran coming in who's usually a quarterback is a little bit better a year removed from Achilles. They play a lot better. And I think that might happen for him, to be able to, especially he's not a run around quarterback anyway. So, I mean, he could still flourish sitting in the pocket the way they do.
Well, here's the thing with Kirk Cousins, though. If they release him, they get a dead cap hit of $65 million.
Yeah.
So when you think it out, why don't they just keep him?
Yeah.
Other
than trading him, that's the only other thing I guess you could do.
But you're not going to get anything for him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You might not get enough for him.
Geno Smith, that was a 3rd round pick that the Raiders gave up for Geno Smith.
Yeah, that was a great job, I thought.
I thought it was great. I'm the Raiders. I got a guy, Geno Smith, with Pete Carroll coming back. I gave up a 3rd rounder for Geno Smith. Are you kidding me?
And I know Geno will be happy to go to Pete Carroll because he's the guy that gave him the opportunity to resurrect his career, and he did.
He spent 5 years in Seattle.
Yeah.
So,
3 of them was with Carroll? Well, maybe 4.
Four out of the 5 were Carroll. The last year
was McDonald.
McDonald's, and so he's going over with Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll's behind that.
And now it puts them in an interesting position for the draft. Because let's say Shedeur does fall. Are they going to really think, because they really do like him. He liked the Raiders.
Right.
But they also thinking about Gentry, the running back, because they need an upgraded running back. And they're in a great position to get either one. They should be in good position to get that. Even though the running backs situation is so deep, they can do a lot of things. It is deep this year, as far as running backs concerned.
This is a good
year.
This is a very good draft for defensive ends or defensive tackle, defensive line.
The line is great.
And it's also a great draft for running backs.
Yep.
So I think what you will see, a lot of teams, especially 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, start drafting going after the running backs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I personally think, now the Bengals, another NFL, the Bengals have given Hendrickson, their star DN, they said, go ahead and get out there and see if, you can sign with another team.
Yeah.
Or they did like what Stafford did, the Rams did with Stafford, go shop yourself around the NFL and see what you could work out and come back to us. I have a feeling that the Bengals are probably going to let Hendrickson go.
So they can sign T. Higgins.
So they can sign T. Higgins and draft a defensive end.
That's right.
Because this is the draft. So what they could do is they can use that money they were going to have to go for Hendrickson, use it and sign T. Higgins long term.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got a great draft for defensive ends and defensive tackles. The Bengals go that route, is they draft.
And they get younger.
And they're going to get younger. And
I think he's 30 or somewhere in there.
Yeah, he is. Hendrickson,
still playing great, but good. You want long-term stability. So,
and then we get Myles Garrett, the other issue. Haslam refused he wanted to meet with Jimmy Haslam, and Haslam said no. Myles Garrett wanted to talk to the owner of the Browns, Jimmy Haslam, and Haslam said, no, I'm not going to talk to him. Now I understand why. Is because he's got the GM. He doesn't want to give it he doesn't want the player to go over the GM's head. And that's where it is. He has chain of command, and it just goes that he's not going to. Mary Kay Cabot was on the Mad Dog Russo show yesterday. Mm-hmm. That's what she was basically saying, it was just chain of command is Haslam is not going to talk to a player basically and override the GM, Andrew Berry.
Right.
So that's what that's about. Some people are looking into that and they're going, oh, this is just terrible. Jimmy Haslam's not talking to the players. Well, Jimmy Haslam, I'm not a big fan of Jimmy Haslam, but I respect what he's doing here. He's basically saying, no, I have a GM there. He could talk to the GM and the coach. I don't want to get involved. And then, I'll get involved, but I'm going to work with my GM. I'm not talking to the player directly, chain of command. Right. I get it. The only problem is they won't trade Myles Garrett. They said they won't. I personally think what they should do is do what the Bengals are doing with Hendrickson. Let Myles Garrett go out there and shop around, let him shop himself around and see what he, basically where he could sign and what can they get for him.
Right.
That's the question. Now, it was on record, and this Mary Kay Cabot did a great job for Cleveland Browns. She basically said that Andrew Berry was asked, this is maybe a month ago or so, I think at the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. He was asked, that's when the trade demand came out. The reporters asked Andrew Berry, would you take 2 first-rounders for Myles Garrett? And he said, no way. So he would not take 2 first-round picks. He said, no, we won't do that. So I'm thinking, I don't think teams are going to give, I don't know. And if you start looking at the history of what defensive players get in draft, they usually don't get that. And he's 29.
Yeah.
So I don't think a team's going to give up 2 number 1 picks for Myles Garrett.
Well, they said that. No, not only that, the price done went up. And the reason it went up is that Max Crosby earlier in the week signed a 3-year, $106 million contract with the Raiders. So now Myles Garrett's going to say, hey, if he's getting that, I got to get at least that or more. So now the ante raises up, and I don't know if teams are willing to give up all that.
And then have to use all that money to sign him.
Yeah. So I really don't think that's, he's going to have to just go ahead and play, especially since he's still got, I think he got 2 years left on his contract. And, does he 2 or 3?
To your point, Max Crosby, he signed a 3-year deal, $106 million extension. That's an extension.
Right.
$91 million is guaranteed. A lot of guaranteed money.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that's almost literally a $106 million extension, $91 million of 106 is guaranteed.
Right.
That's a lot of guaranteed money.
Oh, yeah.
And so going back to exactly what you said, Dave Clark, this is at least the contract Myles Garrett is going to be looking for. He's going to be looking for something in the neighborhood of 3 years and $100 and some odd million.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the thing. So I don't think it's going to happen there. Might just have to try to play it out another season and see what happens from there. But the Browns definitely have to be in the market, and we know they are for a quarterback. We know they are just by making the move of reconstruction of Deshaun Watson's contract to create $36 million.
Right, that's free up on the cap.
Yeah, that'll give them an opportunity to try to sign, a veteran free agent right off the top. And if they want to take one of the rookies, they can. And they really put themselves in a good spot there. And they'll have to deal with that $81 million next year or whatever it is, dead cap, if they get rid of him. Or, like one guy said, he could just remain on the roster and you deal with it, but he doesn't play again in the Cleveland Browns uniform.
Yeah, these teams with this contract, they were talking a little bit about contracts on the Brady Quinn, on the 2 pros, a cup of Joe, and they extend the money out.
Yeah.
Like they'll pay these guys, even when the guys are gone, they're still paying them.
Yeah.
Because they extend this all, they're always kind of, it's called almost like they're playing funny money with the way they kind of move the money around.
Yeah, that's what they do.
To get around the cap.
What is it called? Embezzlement? No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, you could probably make an argument that you're probably going down that road of, I'm not sure quite if embezzlement is quite the term, But it's almost like
it's a street over from it.
It's a shell game with the money. It's the way they move the money around.
Oh, man.
It's creative accounting.
Yeah.
How you want to call it?
All kind of accounts. Well, I don't know. But they do it. They know how to do it.
They don't know how to play with the money, with the cap, and extending it out.
Because I thought they couldn't do. I didn't really think they'd be able to do that. And I said, wow, they'll find something next year before time to know how to get this money moved around again.
They're always fooling around with the money and the caps and the bonus and the way they do it.
Because they do have to write Watson off. They got to just let him.
Yeah, Watson.
He should be done.
Right. He's done in Cleveland.
Yeah, he's
not playing. I don't think he plays next year or this year anyway because the Achilles.
Right.
You don't rupture it again and again, and you're going to have just from coming back from a second Achilles rupture like that.
It wouldn't be to next season, and that's when you got to try to see if you can get rid of him. If you can, he might not be.
You're getting
damaged goods. They might not want.
He's 2026, I think, when he plays from a physical standpoint.
Right.
He's not playing 2025 with the Achilles. That he ruptured it again. I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying. You've seen the impact that Achilles, like look at Aaron Rodgers and Cousins.
Yeah.
They're not, they always need that year to kind of get back, and some of them don't come back.
And I didn't ever see it out of Cousins, like the mobility. He was a running quarterback anyway, but he was mobile enough to get out the way. I never seen it before he got benched. I will say Rodgers, as the season waned on, you start to see a little bit of
the old Rodgers come back.
So this year is the year. If he's going to play, this is the year that you may get a decent season. What's so funny about, this is that how high of a standard this guy got. Because you'll say, well, he's terrible. He had his terrible season. But he threw 28 touchdowns to, I think it was 11 or 12.
Rodgers.
Yeah.
No, Rodgers had, statistically, Rodgers' numbers are good.
But they talk about it as if he was just a bum. No. He was terrible.
No, right.
So the team was terrible.
No, the field goal kicker was terrible. He cost them 3 games, I believe.
Yeah. 3 or 4.
The field goal kicker was for the Jets was horrendous.
Yes. 3 or 4 games easy.
Yeah, easy. That field goal kicker cost the team.
And when you think about it, those wins can change. They've changed everything.
Yeah.
Probably would have got into the playoffs.
You get into the play if they had a legitimate, consistent kicker on the Jets. I know the Denver game he missed 10-9. They lose 10-9. He had a 40-some-odd yard kicker and missed it.
Yep.
They win that game.
Yep.
And there were a few other games I know he cost them.
And they missed extra points.
Right, and extra points. That's right. I mean, the Jets' priority should get a kicker, even if they have to draft one.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get one. You got to get somebody you can rely on. Sure.
Max Crosby is 27 years old. He will be 28 in August. 3-year, $106 million, $91 million guaranteed is what he's got. So going back to Myles Garrett obviously will be looking for something in the ballpark of at least that.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe, and we'll get this here, Myles Garrett obviously wants out of Cleveland, and I don't think, at least I don't know where this is headed. He has 2 years left on his contract. He only makes $19 million. The cap hit would be 19. Yeah, option 18 and $19 million, and then next year he makes $20 million. And the dead cap is only $36 million this year and $21 million next year. So he's tradable.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
He's obviously, and here's what maybe a lot of people don't understand. When they do contracts, they extend them. They don't redo the current contract. So like if somebody signs Myles Garrett, they're going to give him a contract extension. He gets an extension to this contract.
Right.
Like Max Crosby signed that deal. It was in a contract extension.
Right.
And
it's
so
brand new.
It's not a new
from that one.
It's not new. They just extend out from the current.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody were going to get Myles Garrett and he wants to negotiate his extension, that's where they're going to go. But Garrett is 29 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So he's 29 this year. Next year, he's 30. So bottom line is that's kind of how the contracts in football work. They don't redo current contracts.
Right.
They keep the current one and just extend
it out.
Mm-hmm. So Myles Garrett wants to trade. The Browns are saying no, they're not trading him, and they're still standing on that.
Right.
Question's going to be, what can they get for him? I don't know if they're going to get 2 first-rounders for him.
No.
I doubt it. So then I think the Browns are either going to redo his contract or do the extension, and he'll stay there.
Yeah. Even though he act like he don't even want the extension, he just wants to.
No, he just wants out.
He just wanted to go ahead, have an opportunity to play a Super or a chance to be in a Super Bowl.
Right.
And I mean, you start to think, is their window closing pretty much? I mean, they were at a point where you just seen they were a quarterback away or this or that away from being all the way. I mean, Chubb was at the height of his game. The offensive line was great. The defense started great. Just needed a leader, and that's where they dropped the ball. A lot of people say, well, and that's hindsight, because you hear people all the time now, they should have kept Baker. Well, you wasn't saying that back then. A lot of people was get rid of Baker. They just didn't want Watson once they signed Watson. And I think the biggest thing that upset them is the guaranteeing contract. But like I said, mentioned it to you before. Take us, for instance, I'm not taking a guarantee. If you're going to give it to me, I'm going to take it.
Oh, yeah.
But see, if I'm Cleveland, I never would have went back to that road because I talked to him. He didn't want to sign with us. He was thinking about going to Atlanta. And then we turn around and, okay, like we was in an interrogation room, and now we just, we'll give you guaranteed money. No, if he didn't want to come, I need to continue to search and see what I can get, top-notch quarterback, a trade, something to get a quarterback. I wouldn't have paid no $230 million.
And the other thing you knew he was going to get suspended by the NFL.
For a big, it was going to be big.
You knew it was going to be big.
It wasn't going to be a 4-game suspension.
No,
you already knew that.
You knew that. So, I mean, you knew his history. You knew the issues he had with the massage therapists.
Right.
And you knew the NFL was going to really give him a pretty bad, long suspension, which they did. 11 games. First quarter is in the books. Saturday morning sports page, Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. Quick timeout after this on Western Reserve Radio.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the right seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Catch all of the spring and summer action of Cleveland Cobras minor league football on Western Reserve Radio. Follow the Cobras as they compete against teams from around the region in pursuit of a Tri-Point Football League championship. And if you're looking to continue your football career after high school, college, or even the pros, or to be part of the Cobras staff, go to Facebook at Cleveland Cobras Football or contact owner Jesse Caldwell at 330-416-3442. Be a part of the excitement of Cleveland Cobras football.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Question. When you walk into the boardrooms of the most successful companies here in Ohio, who do you meet? Answer. Men and women who play high school sports. Education-based high school sports give us more than athletes we can root for. They give us leaders we can depend on. Question. So where will we find tomorrow's leaders? Answer. high school sports.
This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Saturday morning sports page. Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. 330-707-4202. Lines are open. Like to comment on sports, what's on your mind. Again, a lot going on in the world of sports, a lot of crazy stuff. Football has just continued to being front and center.
Always
it is. I think this is going to be one of the most, I say this so every year. I always say this looks like this is going to be one of the most interesting drafts.
Yeah, it's going to be something.
Well, this one's high. I think it's got like a lot going on in this draft because you just don't know. Now they're talking about like other quarterbacks are moving up in the draft, which doesn't surprise me. But Jackson Dart from Mississippi may end up being a first rounder.
Yeah.
Later first rounder, or might be earlier might be earlier than people think.
Yeah.
He's playing very well at a great combine. Matt Howard didn't have a good combine, but that may be, again, he's throwing to receivers he doesn't know. That might be, he may drop in the draft and some team's going to get a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
If you base everything on a combine.
Right.
Not what he did during the regular season, which led Ohio State to a title and played great. So I think it's great just because I think if you're a team that you need a quarterback, don't be too shocked that Matt Howard, he ends up getting drafted higher than what people think because I don't know how much they put in the combine. But Jackson Dart is another quarterback that looks like, from all indications, is moving up in the draft from out of Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was talk earlier that the Giants were interested in Jackson Dart, and they don't want to, tell anybody that, even though everybody knows this anyway. But Cam Ward is considered one. Shedeur Sanders is two. This is an old list, but this is from a day ago. They got Jalen Milroe, Alabama, 3. Will Howard, number 4, out of Ohio State. This one. And then I think Dart's probably 5.
Mm-hmm.
No, Riley Leonard from Oregon is considered 5.
Oh, you talking about from Notre Dame?
Yeah, this is the Notre Dame one. Yeah. This is an old list, but the point is, I look at this draft and I just think to myself that this is just, Riley Leonard they mislisted him in this. He's the Notre Dame guy.
Right.
He's considered 5.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even have, this also goes to show you what they know, and they don't have Jackson Dart in the top 5 on this pick, on this draft. But then I'm looking at it and I'd say, that goes to show you what they don't know. I mean, they don't even really know after the first 2 where these guys fall in. I think Cam Ward is a guaranteed number. He seems to be the number 1 quarterback in the draft. Shedeur is still number 2.
Right.
And then I think after that, it's anybody's guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now here's another one. Here's Shedeur. They've got Cam Ward 1, Shedeur Sanders 2, Jackson Dart is 3, Quinn Ewers 4, Jalen Milroe 5, Riley Leonard 6, Will Howard 7, Kyle McCord from Syracuse is 8.
Yep. Those guys moving up too.
Right. He's moving up. So if you break all this down, they really, after the first 2, I think it's pretty much a crapshoot.
Yeah.
With quarterbacks.
Of who they're going to take. Yeah.
If rating out these quarterbacks, they've got, now here's one Bucky Brooks has actually got Shador over Cam Ward. So for all intent purposes, you got Shador and Cam 1 and 2. And after that, you could argue 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that got to do with Bucky Brooks being a former player.
Yeah, and he was a GM.
Yeah, GM too.
Right.
So he's really good on knowing these things.
Yeah, you listen to him.
Yeah, I listen to him a lot because I think one of the things he looked at, he said it one time, just a while back, he thought this was important for Shador. He said, because his dad is Dion. And he's not saying not that. He said, watching your dad be a professional and then going through all the traits and things through college, high school,
right.
He trained and got ready for games like a pro does.
Right.
And he's been doing it for years. So when you do that, you already have that pro mindset going right into the NFL. He said that is a plus. People don't know that. He's already training like a professional would do. That's going to help him a lot in the NFL game. And he said that's where he really put him like ahead of the game on a lot of things. He thinks Cam Ward is great too. He just said that is a little extra plus for him.
Now, this is Bucky Brooks' top 5. Shador, 1. Cam Ward, 2. Jackson Dart, 3. Jalen Milroe, 4. Kyle McCord, 5. That's how he's got his top 5.
Yeah, he said he think Kyle McCord had a lot. What did he say one time? Had so much pressure on Ohio State to do this and that and blah, blah. And him and Harrison coming from the same high school, I think, together. They look for all these things. They put a lot of pressure on him. He said, but you seen when he's able to go and just relax from all that and just play football, you seen what he was able to do up in Syracuse. So he can advance with the right coaching. Be really a great pro, so that's what he looked at. I like listening to Bucky Brooks because he makes a lot of sense.
I've heard him, and he does.
Yeah, and that's because he's like I said, ex-player, but then got the other side of the thing of being a GM and knowing how to get.
And that's kind of what
really
comes out when you listen to him.
Yeah.
You could see a lot of the GM come out. Because he analyzes when he starts to talk about the players, he sounds like a GM who's ready, making the decision, do I draft? And again, the fact that he played is a big plus, but the fact that he was the GM, he breaks things down. He's kind of that analysis of breaking down these players. Like his top 5 running backs are Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina, Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, Trevion Henderson out of Ohio State is 4, and Quinshawn Junkins out of Ohio State 5, right behind Trevion. So you got the 2 Buckeyes 4 and 5 in his pick, and this is a draft loaded with running backs, and then defensive
line.
Yep. And you're going to see, and then even what I always like is. I agree with you. I really like Bucky Brooks. He's got, as far as I think I was looking for his wide receivers are McMillan out of Arizona, Jr., Luther Burden III. I think, is that the Luther Burden? Is that the son? There was a Luther Burden played basketball. I got to look this up.
I don't know if it is.
Luther Burden.
Yep.
They called him Tiki Burden. He was drafted by the Knicks. I believe he played for Utah. I think that might be a son or his, maybe he would have been 70s. This could be a grandson. Luther Burden III, it might be his grandson.
Yep.
He's the second player rated. And then Ibuka out of Ohio State is 3rd.
Who's Bucky Brooks?
Yeah, Bucky. I'm looking. These are Bucky Brooks picks. I agree with you. I know all these guys are all over with the draft and rating, and that's great. But I kind of favor Bucky Brooks when he rates them because I just think he seems to know more.
Yeah,
he seems to know what he's talking about.
I like him, and then I like Jerry. I'm not talking about our guy that's been doing it forever. What's his name?
Mel Kiper.
Mel Kiper. He's okay.
No, Mel's good.
He's good, but I just like these guys. But I like him, and I like Daniel Jeremiah.
Yeah, Jeremiah's good.
Yeah, I like those guys.
Those guys are good. Bucky Brooks has got Mbuka out of Ohio State 3rd, Trey Harris 4, Isaiah Bond out of Texas 5.
Yeah.
And
I forgot about him.
And this is a loaded class.
Now, that's 5. Yeah, that's loaded too, because you didn't even say nothing about Golden.
No.
And he is a dynamite receiver from Texas. Yep, that guy is good and could be a real steal. And he's not even in his top 5.
Yeah.
I mean, it's loaded with some receivers.
Yeah, it's packed.
Yeah, I know. This is a good draft.
I'll get to the DNs, but I mean, I just think the fact that I think ultimately what's going to happen is with Cincinnati, I think ultimately they are going to let Hendrickson go and they're going to draft a DN, because I just think I think they want to keep T. Higgins. They got him on a tag. They tagged him, tagged him again. I think they want to get he and Chase long term, and then ultimately go DN, draft, and start maybe picking up a couple. They got Sam Hubbard retired.
Yeah.
That was the other thing in Cincinnati. Sam Hubbard played 7 years. He just recently announced his retirement.
Right.
So if they let Hendrickson go, they're down 2 defensive line guys.
Yeah.
So ultimately the Bengals, I think what they'll do, and this is my guess, is they'll probably let Hendrickson, and then they're going to go after defensive ends in the draft and draft probably 2 or 3 D ends, D linemen,
and then
build that way.
Yeah, use free agency to maybe pick up he might be a middle of the line type of guy, but get him, and it's get somebody that they can get there to be that mentor from that DN, because that's one of their big things. They can score the ball, but they got to be able to stop some people, and it's going to be big for them to do that this season. I was thinking about what you said earlier about people getting upset with Shedeur and what he said. And I remember our guy Joe Burrow coming out. You talking about a guy who was confident about what he could do. He said a lot of things that was very confident. People took it as arrogance. And I didn't take it as that. I've seen that he was a competitor, and he's a guy that's confident in his ability to play the position. So when a guy says that, the first thing that people want to say, especially a lot of people that sit back, they got something to say about it.
Right.
And depending on who they are, with Shedeur, it's even more so than Burrow, because look who his dad is. Oh, he's arrogant like his dad. Look at this, that, and the other. Well, Deion Sanders played cornerback in the NFL.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you something. You better be very confident in that position, because you have to forget that last play immediately, because you're going to be attacked again on the next play. And so you got to have big time confidence at the defensive back position, especially at a corner on the island. You got to be ready. And if you better talk with some confidence and mean it, or you're not going to last too long. So, they just take it. They want you to be just nice and humble and all the time. Don't say too much. Nah. You got to talk with some. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you got to convince yourself that you're that good.
Right.
If you can't convince yourself, you're not going to be good.
I don't see where the big. I don't know.
No, they just.
Sometimes I really.
It wasn't even no big thing. I can't remember all of it, but it wasn't nothing major like that. The way they were. I mean, they act like this stuff was like he did a crime or something. I don't know. I think this is like the stir up stuff. They need some talking points. During, like you said, a slow time, let's get some talking points going, and they got to do that. We see it every year. Somebody's draft stock is destroyed by a media personnel or somebody else or fan or whatever. Every season we've seen it. I can go back for years. It's always something with someone, and they try to destroy their draft thing. But it doesn't matter. Wherever he goes, he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to play.
Well, they said he was brash and arrogant. I'm just looking at comp. Okay. I didn't get the particulars, but he said he was brash and arrogant. I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's arrogant. He's brash. Okay. And the problem with that is what? Like, if I'm looking at a kid coming out of college, a quarterback, and I got a guy that's brash and arrogant, but I want him to be my quarterback, I'm thinking, okay, I could work with that. Like, I would think that is okay. That might be a little tough, but I would say, no, that's a good thing. I can work with that. If the kid could play and he's a little brash and arrogant, I kind of want that anyway in my quarterback.
Yeah.
Because I think you've got to be a little brash and arrogant.
You don't think, like I just said, Joe Burrow, when you look at current quarter, you don't think he's brash?
Yeah.
He is in a lot of things he says in a real calm, slight manner.
But you could
you can see it.
But Shador doesn't candy coat it. He just tells you what's on his. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
No. Do you think Tom Brady was brash?
Yeah. And arrogant?
Yeah. Yeah, we see how great he was. Right. For sure.
I mean,
Aaron Rodgers.
And Aaron Rodgers.
Come on. But he wasn't good.
Right. You don't think I watch all these old clips with Larry Bird. And all those guys.
Yeah.
Worthy and Byron Scott and even the glove.
Gary
Payton.
Brash as
he said that Bird would talk trash but back it up. He said Worthy was so funny because he's going, and they all talk about it. They said Bird would come up to you and say, I'm going to go over that corner. And even there was a tie game and he went over and he told the opposing coach and bench what he was doing. Right. He went to the opposing coach and says, I'm going to go to that corner and hit a three and win the game. And he told everybody, and he did it.
Right.
And that's what we used to drive them all crazy, is because he would go out to the player trying to defend him. And Bird went on to say that he said that they put Bill Hanslick on him to guard him. And he was just eating Hanslick alive. And then I think he went over to the bench and told the coach, don't you have anybody that can guard me on this team? What do you get? Bill Hanslick?
Yeah.
And he said, and the coach looked at him, he goes, no, I don't. I think it was It was Leighton. He goes, don't you have anybody that could guard me? And Leighton looked up and down the bench. He goes, no, I don't.
I used to like Frank Leighton. He was
funny.
But that said that happened. I remember it was a round table thing that was on. I was watching that.
Yeah.
And they said, I know Gary Payton was on there.
Oh, yeah.
And he talked about Bird. He talked about a playoff game they was playing in Chicago. And he kept harassing. He said, I got him, MJ. And he kept harassing him. And he said I forgot the comment he made to him. He told him something. And he said it was like the guy's facial features and everything has changed. And then he started hollering to their bench, you better get everybody out here to guard me. I'm going for 60. And he only had like 8 points at that time. And next thing you know,
he had 64.
It's just crazy. They couldn't stop him.
But the point, and that's what I mean, you talk about brash and arrogant.
Yeah, I mean,
James Worthy basically said with Bird, he goes, I really can't say it's arrogant because he backed it up.
Yeah, that's not arrogant.
So it's really not arrogant. He goes, it's trash talking, but he backed everything up.
All the great ones did it.
And that's all the great ones
did. Wasn't quiet.
Right.
Kobe was never quiet.
No.
They always got something to say, just talking constantly.
Right. Constantly.
While they playing.
The best, what I heard, Gary Payton was talking about with John Stockton. He said, I would talk trash with John Stockton. And he goes, he just never said a word to me. And they're good friends. I found this because he's talking about it. He goes, oh, we're good friends today. Because someone said, what do you mean? Oh, yeah, we're still I talk to John Stockton a lot. We're still good friends. He goes, I gave up. Because I would talk trash to him and he never even changed his facial expression. He kept doing what he was doing. And it was just like talking to a wall. Finally, he said, I just went to Stockton and he goes, I'm not talking trash to you anymore. I can't get nothing out of you. He would never, and he goes, oh no, he goes, because they asked him, well, like, what's your relationship with John Stockton today? He goes, oh, we're good. We're pretty good friends.
Yeah.
But I talked so much trash to him on the court, but I gave up because I couldn't. He just never responded.
Yeah.
Couldn't
get him going.
Yeah. So he goes, I gave up and Peyton goes, I was a big trash talker, but all those guys were. And they said Bird was the one that drove them all nuts. Even Isaiah Thomas talked about like Larry Bird. He called Isaiah cheesy. Like he said, he went over during a game. They put Kent Benson on Bird. And Larry Bird went over to Isaiah, and he said to Isaiah, he goes, "Hey, Cheesy, you got to be kidding me. Kent Benson is going to try to guard me?" And Isaiah just get the big smile on his face and shook his head. And sure enough, he says, Bird just lit him up like no tomorrow. And then I guess he said to Charles Barkley said this, he goes, they were in a game and Bird was mad. And like he goes to, Barkley goes up to him and he goes, "What are you upset about?" He goes, "Because you're putting a white guy on me to guard." He goes, "They can't guard me." He goes, "At least you're going to give me give me one of the black players to guard me, but this white guy's not guarding me." And he said, that's what he said. Barkley's like, "What are you talking about?" That's what he said. Bird would get offended if they put a white guy on him because he goes, "They can't guard me because you can't have a white guy guard me."
Yeah, I'm just telling you, it was great back then.
But that was great back then. Yeah, but this is good. Bringing it back. Shedeur Sanders is brash. What am I missing here? I mean, these GMs get like because he's brash, he's arrogant.
They didn't say who the GM is, right? It's incompetent. You don't know who it is, though. They said this, right?
I got to look it up. I don't know which one of these. I mean, give me a break. I'm just reading. It's all over the internet. Why Shedeur Sanders is arrogant, labeled by anonymous GM.
Yep. Always figure.
It's always anonymous.
Yeah, and it might be one that's getting ready to draft him. Make sure he puts something out there so they can bypass him.
Right.
All that kind of stuff goes on.
Well, that's the game. Basically, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, it's the gimmick of the game.
It's the gimmick of the game. That's a good way to put it.
Yep.
Is this guy's trying to diss Shedeur Sanders?
Mm-hmm.
They want because he wants to draft him,
right?
So he's hoping that if they put out this kind of information, the teams that can draft him won't.
Right.
He'll drop in the draft, and the anonymous GM will draft him. The anonymous GM that thinks he's brash and arrogant will turn around and unprofessional, they said. Brash, arrogant, and unprofessional. That GM will draft Shedeur because he wants Shedeur to drop to where he is because that's who he wants to draft.
Yeah, I know they kept talking to him. Well, why aren't you going to perform at the combine? And then Bucky Brooks and a couple others were on there. Louis Riddick, they were all on. They were talking about and Daniel Jeremiah. They said one of the reasons that guys don't do that, especially at the quarterback position, is when you're throwing to guys out here that you're not familiar with. Sometimes it's not that the guys can't catch, but you can't get that timing, so you don't look as accurate and on point. You'd rather go to a controlled atmosphere with receivers and guys that you know, so you know the timing points. You could throw that ball and be accurate and precise, and it looks good in pro day.
Right.
So that's why a lot of them just bypass the combine.
They
go to their pro day and let you come. Because now they're throwing in an environment that they're used to.
Right. Can they have their receivers?
And then people say, well, that's not fair. Well, wait a minute. When you go to a team and get drafted, aren't you in your environment? That's your receivers. You're going to have them. You may be the first couple of days of practice. You don't got that. But once you get there and OTAs and get the timing down with this guys, now you're ready. So why don't you do the same thing with the pro day? I understand it.
Yeah, I
understand doing that, especially at the quarterback position. Especially that.
I mean, to me, I don't really care about the combine.
No.
I want to know, like someone even said this, look at their body of work during the year. The combine is shorts, throwing to guys in shorts, throwing to wide receivers you don't know. I mean, to me, and you interview and you talk to those guys, but
you could come and do that stuff, but you don't have to, why you got to come on and do on-field performance?
Right. Yeah.
You don't really have to.
You don't have to.
You want to run, you can.
Right.
If you like Lamar Jackson, I'm not running because you guys want me to be a receiver or a running back.
Well, yeah.
Or a defensive back.
Yeah, so they wanted him to be.
See me run a 4.2 something. Next thing you want to put me in the backfield.
Right. That's what they said.
That's what they want to see. So
they wanted Lamar Jackson to be a defensive back. How'd that work out?
That would have been the most stupidest thing ever.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like,
and it could have happened. Take us back about maybe 40 years.
30 years ago, he would, 40 years.
Yeah.
We go back to the days still. He's since Marlon Briscoe. He passed recently. He would have been, he played quarterback for Denver when they had all the injured quarterbacks out. He played really good.
Yeah.
And then he went back to being the wide receivers because back then you couldn't have really a black quarterback.
Right.
In the 60s.
Right.
It was kind of unheard of.
Yeah. I mean, James Harris went
James
through it all,
Harris
starting
was
at Buffalo, right?
Right. He was one that was one of the first. James Harris was one of the first black quarterbacks. But you start looking at the history.
Yeah.
And you take, we talked about it previously.
I mean, Sears rocket arm, James Harris.
Yeah, James Harris.
They're trying to find other things for him to do.
Yeah.
Be a tight end.
Big. He was about 6'5".
Yeah.
Had a gun for an arm.
Yep. And then he was able to play quarterback at Buffalo as a backup, then started. Then he went to the Rams and was a starter.
He was a starter for the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then there was Joe Gilliam for the Steelers that beat out Bradshaw.
Yeah.
The sad part.
See, that's people don't understand.
No, he actually beat out Bradshaw. The sad thing with him was drugs.
Yep. Absolutely.
He could not overcome his addiction.
Yep.
And that was the sad part, but he had the skill and ability to play the position.
Yeah.
Joe Gilliam, but drugs basically derailed his career.
Yep.
And he was out of the league. But had he overcome his drug addiction early, he probably would have been the starter for the Steelers.
Yeah.
And Bradshaw even came out and said, he said, the guy beat me out.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And he
boy,
and he had a gun for an arm.
Oh my goodness. Wasn't a big guy either.
No, he wasn't.
Man,
he was not.
Fire that ball.
No, he had a gun for an arm, Joe Gilliam, and he could throw that ball. And he like I said, I remember watching him play for the Steelers. He wasn't. He was I think he was like 6. He went to Tennessee State.
Yep. And he played in the USFL too. He played for the Washington Federals.
Right.
In the initial season when we came there.
Sadly, he passed 4 days before his 50th birthday in the year 2000. But sadly, he was 6'2" and 189, 190. So he wasn't giant. I mean, he was a decent-sized quarterback. I don't know if he was quite 6'2". They said he was. He always looked a tad small, but he had a gun for an arm.
Yeah.
Throw the ball down the field. I mean, he could throw 60 yards.
No problem. It always looked effortless.
And and I had that the spiral, just a shot, the ball coming out of a cannon.
Nice.
Saturday morning sports page. It's halftime. Back after a quick timeout on Western Reserve Radio.
Youngstown, Warren, and Salem Sports Talk is on the iMedia One Network, Western Reserve Radio, Western Reserve Radio 2, and City View Sportscast.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Western Reserve Radio is the Valley's online source for sports talk and local live events. Tune in and be a part of their live weekly shows, as well as all of the hard-hitting action of Youngstown Phantoms hockey, high school football, and the GDFL. Find them at westernreserveradio.com. Tune in and the Live 365 app to be a part of the area's sports conversation. Be sure to visit them on Facebook at Western Reserve Radio and on Twitter at WR_radio.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. Take one.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Lena's Pierogi House is your home for the area's best variety of pierogies. Daily specials include the Polish platter, the Hungarian platter, stuffed cabbage, and halushki. Having a last-minute get-together? Lena's has you covered with a wide variety of frozen take-home pierogies and dumplings. Go to Facebook at Lena's Pierogi House to see the weekly lineup of available flavors for dine-in or carry-out. Catch the best at Lena's Monday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Tuesday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 20 North Main Street in Hubbard, or call 234-254-8532.
Saturday morning sports page, Pat Lucia, Dave Clark back. Yeah, we were talking a little bit, other quarterbacks. Talked about Joe Gilliam. He passed in 2000, the age of 49, 4 days before his 50th birthday. Great quarterback, gun, great talent. Sadly, drug addiction really held him back, sadly. Another great quarterback coming out of college, black quarterback, was Warren Moon. Washington won the Rose Bowl, beat Michigan in 1978 Rose Bowl. NFL wouldn't draft him as a quarterback again. Defensive, they wanted to make a defensive back out of him. He went up to Canada. I think he won 4 Grey Cups.
4 or 5.
Four in 4 years or something.
Yeah.
He had still the best pass. Yeah. Spiral, like a ball coming out of a cannon. Just a beautiful spiral.
And I know when he came to the NFL, I was wondering, I wonder how many years he'll be able to play. And I was glad he was able to play about probably another 12 years, somewhere close to that in the NFL. And man, that guy could just throw the football. I mean, he definitely could.
Yeah, Warren Moon actually had a really let's go to the phones. I think we got Irish Mike here. You're on the sports page. What's up?
Good morning, Pat. Good morning, Dave. How you guys doing?
Hey, Irish Mike, what's happening?
Nothing. We're getting closer to NFL draft, and obviously next week or so, next week to 10 days, spring football is going to be kicking off.
Yep.
It's right around the corner then for that, guys. So a lot of interesting things going on in the world of sports, most certainly.
Oh, no doubt. We also have the NFL bubble, or NFL. The college basketball bubble is upon us, and I think that's going to be interesting. Ohio State and Indiana go at it tomorrow at 3:45. That's almost both those teams are sitting on the bubble, and I'm not saying the loser's out of it, but if whoever loses the game is going to have to get into the Big Ten tournament and win a few games to maybe get in. And the conference tournaments are this week, and that's going to dictate some of those bubble teams are going to have to make some significant headway in the conference tournaments. We were talking about Warren Moon when you called. Just for the record, Dave Clark, he actually played. He played 17 seasons in the NFL.
Okay, good.
So he actually started in 84.
17 season period, but he
played 84 to 2000.
Yeah.
Now, granted, his last couple seasons, he had one with Kansas City. He only played one game, and his two seasons with Kansas City were really. He was 44 years old though, too, but he played significant games till the age of 42.
Right.
With Seattle. And then he was Kansas City the last couple years. He was 43 and 44. But he had a really he had a great NFL career. Obviously, I believe he was a first ballot Hall of Famer,
right?
Which he should have been. But the sad part was he had to play up in Canada from 79 to 83. And I believe, I'll look it up, but I believe he won 4 Grey Cups.
Right. Yeah.
But he was an unbelievable quarterback for the NFL. And a first ballot Hall of Famer, but they wanted to make him a defensive back coming out of college. I saw him beat Michigan in the 78 Rose Bowl.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, that's what I couldn't figure out. Like, what seems to be
watching?
Yeah, what were they watching? You watch him throw the ball; he could throw it. He had a great pass. He was a great college quarterback. What do you mean you want to make him a defensive back? Well, sadly, because he was black, and that's the way it was back then. But anyway, we're talking a little bit. Getting with this week, there's a smorgasbord of sports to talk about. The draft is obviously the quarterback situation. Myles Garrett wanting the trade out of Cleveland. He wanted to meet with the owner, Haslam, and Haslam said, no, I'm not going to meet with Myles Garrett. But I think because we talked earlier, it's because he didn't want, he doesn't want the player to go over the GM's head. And here's the other thing with this, too. I know Burrow came out and he kind of said, hey, to the Bengals, you have to sign these guys. Usually players think they want to be GM, they don't.
Right.
And I know what the players are doing, but they're in retrospect, the players need to be the players and let the GMs do the work. Yeah, when the players think they're the GM, that's a problem because the players don't quite understand how the cap works and how you got to sign other players and build your team up.
Mm-hmm.
And before you start, giving a lot of money to one player, that's going to affect the entire team. And the player needs to produce and basically produce to the contract he's getting. Problems is when the players, and we talk about this all the time, underperform their contract.
Mm-hmm.
If you have players underperforming their contracts, that team doesn't normally win.
Correct.
The teams that win are the players that outperform the contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much in any sport, especially in football.
Yeah. Yep. Because the economics, and then you got a cap in football. So it's really important to get a guy to play over the potential of that cap. I mean, not the cap, but his contract, or at least at his contract.
Right.
If it's below it, it's really hitting your team hard in the wallet for sure. Yep.
And, it's funny you bring that up, Pat, because I was watching the other day, it was Thursday afternoon. Mike Martin got introduced as the new general manager of Notre Dame football.
Right.
We knew that 2.5 weeks ago, obviously with the paperwork and things behind the scenes that we're unaware of that you can't officially announce. But they officially announced it on Tuesday, and then he gave his first press conference and media on Thursday. And Mike Martin was with the Detroit Lions front office for 4 or 5 years. Before that, he was, I think, with the Tennessee Titans. So his background has been primarily professional football in the front office for the last 10 years. And now he's going to and he talked about this transition from the high school or from the pro game to the college game and evaluate more 16, 17, 18-year-old kids in high school than evaluating a 21-year-old kid coming out of college is a little bit different. But, I think you're going to see more and more schools go to that, Pat, because of, and he talked interestingly about, obviously dealing with the NIL, and there is going to be what he said, revenue sharing is coming down the road in college football. He said that's inevitable here in the next 6 months. That's going to happen. And, he made mention of the fact that if Pat Lucia is a 5-star kid coming out of high school, okay, we're going to sign him to a 2-year NIL deal because he said it does not make good business sense to sign you a 4-year NIL deal, when we have revenue sharing because we have to see what you can do at the college level.
Right.
I mean,
yep.
So that's going to make the difference too, moving down the road of all these 5-star or high 4-star kids we're going to school because without revenue sharing, you could just throw a bunch of money at a bunch of kids and get them to come to your school like Texas A&M did, 4 or 5 years ago under Jimbo Fisher. If you guys remember that fiasco, they signed 7 defensive linemen that 1 year, correct? Do you guys remember that? It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I think 4 or 5 of them were ranked in the top 30 in the country, and that didn't work out.
No.
So what he's saying is even these 5-star kids, these can't-miss kids are going to – he said it only makes good business sense to give them 2-year revenue sharing deals to see what they can do after 2 years because if you give them 4 years, like you said with these pro players, then you're stuck with a contract you really don't want.
Well, and that's, you see, and therein lies, you're right. And the problem you ultimately have is kids out of high school, to me, it's a larger crapshoot how they're going to adjust to college than kids coming out of college to the NFL. I'm not saying what I'm just saying is I think that's bigger adjustment. I know I don't want to downplay the player coming out of college to the NFL, but I think the bigger adjustment is the kid out of high school going to college. If I were to rate him, I've said that, and I think the risk there with giving kids a bunch of money coming out of high school is we see it time and time again. They have either reached their peak and they did it against high school talent. They get to college and the talent is better and they just don't adjust to it, or they're just not that good.
Correct.
And therefore, they may be, a second, they might stay with the team, but the best they're going to get is second team. They're not even a starter. They don't even, they don't progress enough to be a starter in college. And I think you see.
Let's take a school you root for, Pat, and a guy people are familiar with. And I've argued with my friends over those last 2 weeks, and I'm not taking anything away from the kids. So people, and I realize they won the national championship, and I get it. That's what fans want. We want to win the title, and I understand that. But Jack Sawyer never played like a 5-star kid at Ohio State, like when he came out of high school. Was he a good player? Yes, but he was never 5-star to me is elite. If Jack Sawyer was an elite player, he'd be a first-round draft pick this April. He's not going to be a first-round draft pick.
I don't.
He had to play against Texas. It was a phenomenal play, and people will be talking about play 30, 40 years from now. I get that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. He had that interception against Michigan. But when he came out of high school, he was a 5-star kid. And he played 4 years of college football, guys. Okay. Chase Young didn't play 4 years of college football. Joey Bosa didn't play 4 years of college football. Nick Bosa didn't play 4 years. You understand where I'm going with this?
Right.
Those guys came back in January of 2024. Okay. Because they were not going to be first-round draft picks.
Right.
If they were going to be first-round draft picks, they don't come back to school like Marvin Harrison Jr. They're not coming back.
Right. They're not
They helped themselves and did the right thing from a school standpoint because the fans got ultimately what they wanted, which was the national championship. And I understand that. But from their players, when they make decisions, it has nothing to do with their school. Let's be honest, guys. Right? Am I wrong, Dave Clark?
Yeah.
It has to do with an individual choice and what benefits me and my family as far as my draft status.
That's exactly right.
Right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So if those guys thought they were going to be first round, hell, minus Ibuka and the kid who got hurt in the middle of the year, the offensive tackle, I've not seen one of those kids that came back be projected to be a first round draft pick. So there's a reason why they had to come back their senior year.
Right.
And you hit the nail right on the head, Lucia. They're not as good as they think they are.
And
that's right. And they get all that information. They know that they're not up there, and that's why they come back to try to improve that draft stock.
Yeah, and I mean,
it might have been, Pat, when you were going to school down there in the mid-'70s. Do you realize this Ohio State team, of their 22 starters, 15 of the 22 were fourth-year seniors or fifth-year seniors? When have you ever heard that of Ohio State football in the last 25, 30 years? Be honest.
No.
Right? It was a very veteran-laden team.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because the
back
NIL,
then.
They took the money, and the reality is when they look back at January 2024, 14 months ago, those kids were not going to be first-round draft picks in April of 2020. And they're not going to be first-round draft picks this year, even after another year of school.
Right.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, they're not.
I still joke with friends 20 years later, back after the 01 season, Russell's first year at Ohio State, they went 7-5. And I think they won the bowl game, won 8-5.
Right.
And Michael Doss, the free safety, announced he's come back for a senior to win the national championship. Well, that's, you're 7-5. That's kind of a hard sell to sell after going 7-5. It's like Nebraska saying, I came back to Nebraska this year after my junior year because I want to win the national championship in Nebraska in the year 2025.
Right.
That's the same thing. And so, Doss won the national championship to fill that goal, and people were happy about that. It's about national championships, and pound your chest and wear your shirt and say, look what we did. I get it. But Michael Doss, even after senior year, was the last pick of the third round.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's after he played 4 years of college football.
Yep.
He wasn't leaving after his junior year, let's be honest, Pat and Dave, because he was going to be a fifth-round draft pick. That's why he didn't leave.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
You can say to fans, I've come back to win the national championship, but you didn't leave because your draft staff wasn't that good. That's why you came back.
Yeah. I remember that year.
But fans buy into that stuff, and they create narratives that just aren't true.
Yep.
You have to read through the caca sometimes. I don't want to say another word, but people give it to you, and people buy that narrative.
Yep.
And I just find it hysterically funny.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, and the whole thing with the draft, too, is
being arrogant. I just got something for you, too. I just found something for you, Pat. You was wondering about.
We were talking about Shedeur Sanders' comment. Now all of a sudden, there's teams that are stepping back from comment. Go ahead, Dave.
Our little theory that we thought about.
Yeah.
Whether it's conspiracy or not.
It
may
definitely
be true.
is conspiracy.
Josina Anderson is the one. It wasn't a GM. It came from a quarterback coach. She's unprivileged to let you know who it is, but
Right,
she
she
can
won't.
say this. It's the teams within the top 7 picks.
Okay.
The quarterback coach from a particular team said that he's arrogant and brash because he said when he comes to an NFL team, the way he thinks, the way he prepares, he wants to change the culture of that NFL team to know we're going to win.
Okay.
So now, from saying those kind of comments, he's brash and arrogant. But then they went and researched this coach.
Yeah.
Coach has always been outspoken a lot since NIL has started in college.
Yeah.
He's been outspoken about anybody that has an NIL
deal.
He said because they come in, they're already privileged, they got all this money. And he don't like that type of situation. So he's a guy that's against any of those guys that get those big NIL
got the money,
deals.
right.
Well, the quarterbacks are going to get it.
They're going to get it. Yeah,
and that's why he's against these type of guys. And he says really no one this really should be a top 6 pick or top 7 pick in the draft because of the way they've been coddled in their
with NIL.
Yeah, in NIL.
So basically, he's saying, look,
he's the one that probably wants to draft him.
And he's going to draft him. That guy.
I don't know who it is.
I don't know who it is.
But it's our teams we done talked about.
Right. He's in the top 7.
It says within the top 7.
So what he's basically hoping for is the brash and arrogant Shedeur Sanders drops to his team and they're going to draft him.
Yep. Or drop even further. So they can, she said it might be where this particular team does have a lot of draft capital and they can actually move back up into the first round to get them in the middle.
And get them in the middle or later.
Yep.
So they can get who they want.
Hey, I don't know who it is, though, but who are they? Who's first? Tennessee,
Cleveland, and the Giants are 1, 2, and 3.
Right. And the Raiders, I know, is 6. I don't know who's 7. And then 4 and 5. So it's one of these teams. They're gonna do that. They're gonna pick them, but it's so funny.
Well, I think it's hysterical because I think it goes to show you basically what goes on with the draft.
Yeah.
All the posturing, all the lying, all the back. But
I got a question for Irish Mike just to see what he feels.
Yeah.
If you're a guy, you got a quarterback coming in playing that crucial position, would you want him to be confident, brash? Would you want him that way, or you would want him more mild-mannered, laid back?
I want somebody to play the game with confidence, right?
Right.
That's what I thought.
Confidence in your abilities, confidence in your teammates, confidence in the offense you're running, confidence in everything.
And I said, that's the way Joe Burrow came in. You want to talk about those people that said that a little bit, not as much, but they're saying he's kind of a little arrogant. Well, Joe Burrow is good. and he could play the position. I don't think Which Cole was too quiet. I remember from him dropping in the draft. I remember Dan Marino when he went off, when he kept everybody bypassed.
Oh,
Dan
no,
Marino.
they let him drop to, he was at the end.
And he said, I'm going to show you
what you
miss.
He used the whole thing against. He just went, that was the chip on the shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
That's what Brady used.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing.
They used the fact they weren't respected.
Yep.
Brady used it as I was the 6th quarterback. I was 199. And
what round was that? 6?
It was the 6th or 7th. Yeah.
6th round draft choice.
Right. And they used that. Marino used the fact that they drafted all those other There was a 30, one of the best 30 for 30s ever was that 1983 draft that Tom Selleck does he's the voice and narrates it, does a great job with that. But just the way Elway and the whole Colts situation goes to show you Irsay was just totally off the rails.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes just to show you how that draft unfolded and how, they just let Marino because they thought Marino had a cocaine problem, a drug problem, and they even interviewed his roommate who was drafted. He was the big lineman. I can't remember the name.
Wasn't Freilich, was it?
Yeah, I think it was Freilich. I got to look it up, but they called the roommate in and said, "Tell us about Marino's coke problem." And he's like, "What do you mean? I know the guy well. I hang with him all the time. He doesn't have a problem. What are you guys talking about?" But they had that rumor, and they let that.
You guys talk about rumors, and people put that out there in the NFL. How about they Luka Doncic trade a month ago? How many more times can the Mavs front office and ownership float to the media that they thought Doncic was lazy and overweight? How many more times are they going to do that?
Yeah, that's a great point, because I tell you, it was so funny when he first played with the Lakers, the first game. He made sure he came out of everything he had to show you could just see his body. You could tell. And you could see he wasn't overweight, wasn't heavy. They just made up anything they possibly could to put out on this guy.
Well, that GM, they're threatening the people in Dallas are threatening the GM. I mean, they're going nuts. I mean, and now Kyrie blew his knee out. He's got an ACL. He's out for the year. Kyrie Irving's gone. Now they thinking Anthony Davis's injury is worse than they think he's out for the year. So they're done. The season's over.
And then Anthony Davis might not want to play. He might ask for a trade in the offseason, right?
Yeah. He didn't sign. He didn't sign any extension.
No.
So I can see him saying, "Hey, trade me."
Yeah,
I can see that.
So that trade may go down as one of the worst.
This could go down, guys, as one of the worst colossal trades in the history of any sport. Right?
Especially if he has to get traded. That would be one of the worst things ever.
If the Lakers end up getting to the NBA Finals with Luka, that will be the worst ever, because they handed, the Lakers season was pretty much over for the most part, and they got this trade. And if LeBron and Luka continue to play at this high level and win games, and they end up.
Well, the thing that's strange about it, to be honest with you, before they traded for Luka, the Lakers were already playing good. They actually were coming on.
They were starting to play better,
real good, and everything was going. They was winning without Anthony, whatever. They was winning. Then you bring this guy in, and you think, well, can they mess? It was just made it go to another level. It went to a whole nother level. Now, the thing that helps is sometimes when Anthony Davis, he really is unstoppable. You can't really guard him.
No, we're not.
But the ball will get stuck. When I say stuck, they come down. If you throw it into Anthony Davis, back out, back in, and then they get stuck on one side of the court. Now with LeBron and Luka bringing it down, they alternate possessions, whatever. They come down, and then sometimes they give it to what's my guy? I'm trying to think. Reeves, and let him bring it.
And they let Austin Reeves bring it down.
They just work the ball around, and they get everybody involved. And that's why they're better.
I think, gentlemen, I could be wrong. I think the one professional sport, unlike Major League Baseball or the NFL, even hockey, maybe hockey is the most comparable to the NBA in regards to, Jeannie Buss said the reality is the last 3 straight years in a row, we were eliminated in the second round of the playoffs by the Denver Nuggets, and we couldn't get over that hump. And we didn't think we were any better now than we were 2 or 3 years ago. Like we felt like the train was heading in the same direction again, that, we were going to win X amount of games in the regular season to get eliminated in the playoffs. And, the Cavs are having a wonderful year, and I'm elated. But the reality is this. If they get eliminated in the second, and they don't make it to where the fans want, and no one's going to remember the games in November, December, January, February.
Nope. No, they don't care nothing about you. Got the best record.
Yeah.
If you don't make it where you need to, especially for Cleveland. But, Golden State, we know what that happened when they got beat by Cleveland, and they had the best record. But this is a different scenario. This is a team that hasn't been at this pinnacle ever.
And LeBron's first go around with the Cavs, his last 2 years when they brought in, Sean Merriman, they brought in Shaquille O'Neal and, Antoine Jameson from Washington. Back 08, 09, 09, 010, those back-to-back years, his last 2 years before he left from the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
The Cavs had the best record in the NBA.
Yeah,
they had home court advantage throughout the entire playoffs.
Right.
And we got beat in 09 to the Orlando Magic in the Eastern Conference Final. Then in 2010, we lost to the Boston Celtics in the second round, and LeBron went to Miami. After having the best record in the NBA back-to-back years.
Right. Yeah. Which means,
99% of Cavs fans don't remember that. They just remember we got eliminated in the playoffs.
Right. And that's
so.
Right.
I guess I'm nervous because I get, and I don't want to make you guys laugh because I'm critical of the NBA sometimes and players not playing enough, and guys not playing hard defense. But, the playoffs are different. The scouting reports get better. You play a team 7 times potentially in 12 days, 13 days, and you're on their sets, you're on everything they're doing. But I get nervous. And I thought J.B. Bickerstaff was like that. Maybe Kenny Atkinson. They're too concerned about winning regular season games sometimes. Like, sometimes rest is not a bad thing for guys.
Yeah.
Well, and that's...
I don't mean that maybe not playing Dave Clark, but instead of playing them 37, 38 minutes, only playing them 27 or 28 minutes. You understand what I'm saying?
That's what I have with my guy up in New York. Thibodeau plays
playing those guys too much.
He played them so much, 40-something minutes. And it's every game. And they play hard, too. And then, because he demands that, play hard.
Yeah, no, he wants to play. I get it.
The guys be broken down sometime when he get to the playoffs.
Brunston's got a severely sprained.
These modern day NBA players, they sit out games, this load management, all that other stuff. And, they don't play defense as much. And all they do is shoot 3-pointers or slam dunk the ball. There's no mid-range game. And all the stuff we've been hearing, the last 2, 3, 4 years. And some of the criticism is very much justified. I think we all agree with that.
Right.
But so at the same time, the reality is that when we look back at NBA seasons 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, 99% of the time we look at the playoffs. We don't look at what you did in November, December, January. Oh, what about those Christmas Day games? Nobody remembers that.
No.
I mean, come on.
Who cares about that?
The NFL's one sport I think you can make the playoffs and get eliminated early and say, we still had a really good year. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
You're right on that.
The problem with the NBA is you have 30 teams, 20 teams make the playoffs. So you play 82 games to eliminate 10 teams. That's the problem the NBA has, is they have them shot themselves in the foot by basically getting 20 teams in the NBA. There's 30 teams. So you've rendered the regular season pretty much worthless. I mean, it's a reality. Why kill yourself at 82 games when you're going to get usually you're going to get in the playoffs anyway. Just prepare and get your team in position in the playoffs. Make sure they're healthy enough. You go on the home court doesn't really mean much in the NBA. We've seen that time and time again. If you got to be playing, have your team healthy and playing good beginning of the playoffs. So and it's just the way it is. But again, it's 20 teams get in, 30 teams overall. And there's usually 3 or 4 teams that aren't going to compete anyway. Mm-hmm. So you can almost make the argument there's really 26 teams competing and there's 20 teams getting in. So you're really 4 are already eliminated before the season even starts. It's that 6 teams there that you're competing against to get to the playoffs. Yeah. That's the reality. It's almost as bad like baseball. You have half of the baseball teams are eliminated before the season starts anyway, because they need a salary cap and they're never going to get one. But I digress. But you
need
the
one
picture.
Bad in that.
Yeah, you need one bad.
Yeah.
All right, coming up on break. Hold on, Irish Mike. Dave Clark, Pat Lucia. Got to let more to talk about. Fourth quarter coming up on Saturday Morning Sports Page.
During the fall and winter, grilling season never ends, and Gessler Propane is your local supplier that makes sure you get your hard-earned money's worth. Why go to gas exchanges to pay higher prices for tanks not filled to capacity? Gessler Propane makes sure you're prepared for year-round grilling with 100% filled tanks at a reasonable cost. See Bob Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 3 at Gessler Propane, 702 Youngstown Poland Road, Struthers, or call 330-755-9119. Gessler Propane. They got gas.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Want to know what I like best about high school sports? I love watching my son run on the field. I love the fact that since he's been playing high school sports, he's making better decisions. And I love knowing that with the proper equipment, education, conditioning, and coaching, high school sports here in Ohio are safer than ever before. And that's something I really love.
This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Saturday morning sports page back. Got Irish Mike back. We were just talking Irish Mike. So it is the Dave Clark. We have just solidified the fact that Shedeur Sanders basically his brash and arrogant comments. Well, I want to change the culture.
Yeah,
I want to win. And that's his brash and arrogant.
Yeah, because he said normally teams that pick early
are terrible.
Are usually terrible. Sometimes a team will get something in, from a previous trade, and it's a good team. But most of the time, those teams are your bottom feeders.
Right.
So he wants to come in and change the culture.
Yeah.
But I don't want that from the guy that's going to whoever your quarterback you get. Right. He's the face of the franchise. Yeah. You don't want that.
Yeah, you don't want the guy to want to come in and. Yeah, because obviously you need changing. You need changes.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm gonna be watching this closely because let's say the Raiders do take a back because they need a running back.
Yeah, they need a back really,
but they don't know if they want to take a 6th pick
on a running back. They could
it's so deep.
You could get a running back second round because this is loaded.
They just think Gente is a special back. So let's say they get him. And then they can move back at 15 or something.
And then trade back.
And then get Shedeur.
Then they get Shedeur.
I got to look at the other teams after that to see if any of those teams are looking for quarterbacks. Because there's somebody in that top 7. That cracks me up. They put that out there and probably don't even mean it. But she did say this particular, he might have meant it. Because she said he does have a thing of, in the last 4 years, he's done talked so much about these quarterbacks coming in. It's been coddled because of NIL.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean it. I mean, that's what it is.
They were coddled before. They were just getting envelopes full of cash.
Right.
Give me a break.
Jim back.
Hey, Irish Mike. Are you there? Or did we lose Irish Mike?
Irish Mike might be gone.
Yeah, Irish Mike is gone. Okay. He can give us a buzz back. Here's the deal with this. When you break it down. Okay, you have Shedeur. You have to, if you're another team, you think Cam Ward's probably, depending on who you speak to, he's probably first.
Right. That's what I'm thinking he is first.
So what they're basically putting out is they're hoping that Cleveland and the Giants go a different direction.
Yeah.
And either the Giants may go after Aaron Rodgers, rumor is Cleveland. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they go after rumor. One word I keep saying is Daniel Jones may end up in Cleveland.
Yeah, I've heard that
and
before.
Then he might start.
But I did.
And so there's rumor is that Browns are going after Daniel Jones. And then there's the other rumor that the Vikings want to keep him. And they don't care about Darnold. They want to keep Jones around. So with McCarthy, they could basically have Jones kind of be a bridge, and Jones might start, and then you could bring in Kyle McCarthy to fill in. Like, you don't be putting him right there.
Right, absolutely.
Irish Mike.
Hey, Dave Clark.
Yes.
Lucia hung up on me. I know he wanted to do that years ago, but
we thought you were gone.
No. Hey, right. I was like, I had to run over something. I come over and said,
oh, okay. because we called, you said, where's Irish Mike? Is he there? Is he there? And he goes, no, we didn't hear him.
Hey, another topic I want to bring up with you guys real quick, because I mentioned college football and spring practice starting not this coming week, but a lot of schools, I think Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Penn State are starting the week of the 17th and the 18th, so it's coming up in 10 days or so. And obviously, with the extended seasons for a lot of schools in the January, and for Ohio State and Notre Dame to January 20th, they're going to lighten some of the spring practice loads. Some of the veteran players that played a lot of minutes are going to do limited spring practices and days off and all that. I mean, they're in load management, which makes sense. I think we all agree with that. I think anybody who knows college football said that's a good idea. That's a really good idea, because the NFL is not doing this stuff, guys, right? I mean, their OTAs and stuff, there's no helmets and no shoulder. It's very, very light. There's no blocking. There's no hitting. There's no tackling. It's just more mental stuff than it's physical. And so as we extend these college seasons, and was talking to a guy in South Bend I know really well, and, my friends are saying, hey, it looks like USC doesn't want to play Notre Dame anymore, year in and year out, because they joined the Big Ten and they don't want to play a non-conference game that's threatening their chances of making the playoffs. So, that 100-year century game might be ending. But at the end of the year, guys, remember, there was a lot of controversy surrounding Kirk Herbstreit and some of the comments he made about the playoffs, specifically about the Indianas and the SMUs of the world. Yeah. He was more like about Alabama and some other schools. And maybe we need to take people look at resumes better and schedules. I think eventually we're going to go, and Dave, you and Pat have said this for months now, we're going to go to an AFC, NFC format more than conference schedules, more than Big Ten, SEC, ACC. We all agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately,
like the AFC and NFC, and they're going to be 30, 35 schools involved.
Yeah, they're going to try to mirror,
Yeah, they probably will do that.
I mean, right now, when you look at the landscape of college sports, you have the Big Ten, which is now up to 18 teams, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then I think the SEC is, I've got to look, but they're almost at 18 teams. And the Big 12 is close to that.
Yep.
And then the ACC. So I think they would ultimately try, but there's a problem with the ACC, the way the money is, unless they merge, they merge. Mm-hmm. They go to the ACC and Big Ten and say, well, we're going to merge the leagues, and Big 12 and SEC merge.
Yeah.
And then that's what they'll do, is you'll have two super conferences, and you can call it whatever you want to call them. But I could maybe see that's how they would do it. And instead of trying to raid the conference, say, well, let's get together and merge these if they can. The problem you have with college is you don't have a commissioner. You really don't have leadership. Correct, yeah. So you got teams just doing what they want to do. And now you got the NIL deals, and they're going to limit the colleges to $30 million, like cap it.
Right.
Well, what that equates to is you're going to have legitimate $30 million, mm-hmm. and then you're going to have the $20 million in the envelopes that they don't know about. Right, Dave?
Yeah.
So that's what they're going to have. They're going to have the $30 million NIL that's going to be legitimate. Then we're going to go back to the old days where you're going to have about 10 to 20 million stuffed in the envelopes, and that's going to be, you got an NIL deal, but this is, your supplement to the NIL.
Right.
And the NCAA is going to be so totally powerless, they can't do anything.
Right.
So what you'll just go back to the tradition of money in envelopes plus NIL.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
And the reason why I bring this up, Pat, one of the topics was this week on one of the talk shows, I listened to College Sports Network on my way to school in the morning with Danny Canal and another Dustin when I played for the Bears. And they were talking about, Herbstreit's comments back in January about like Indiana. And Indiana's 3 non-conference games this past year when they made the playoffs were Florida International, Western Illinois, and Charlotte. That was their 3 non-conference.
Yeah, they had no.
They actually bought out their Louisville game a year and a half ago. They were supposed to play Louisville, and they paid Louisville $1 million not to play, and they picked up Western Illinois to play. And so, they were talking about Nebraska this coming fall. Nebraska was supposed to play Tennessee, and they gave Tennessee a check for $1.2 million, and they're not going to play that game. And they picked up Houston Baptist home game.
Yeah.
So, I guess, was Herbstreit, Lucia, was Herbstreit 100% wrong? No. I know we didn't want to see Alabama because we saw Alabama get smoked so many times this year and they weren't deserving. But, Are we going to look at teams' schedules more and say, why did you buy that game out a year? I mean, are we going to hold them more accountable, you think?
They're trying to schedule
But
a playoff.
here's the problem you have. Alabama's schedule, out-of-conference schedule, isn't any better. That's the whole problem you have. It's just, I know what Herb Street's saying, but because Alabama plays SEC's better than the Big Ten, let's call it, top to bottom.
Right.
And Alabama's got the losses because they played better teams in the SEC, but they're out of conference as a joke. The whole problem with college football, I don't know, I get almost to the point, we've said this over and over, is these college teams out of conference games historically are lousy games. Now, there are a couple. Ohio State's playing Texas this year, start the season. That's okay. That's an outlier. But when you look at college football and you look at Alabama, Indiana, and all those schools, you look at their out-of-conference schedules, they're ridiculous. And that's the part that drives everybody crazy, is that some of these conference games. Now, I'm looking at Alabama this year. It looks like they're going to start with, they're playing up Florida State. Alabama starts with Florida State. Then they go to Louisiana Monroe, which is a scheduled win. And then they play Wisconsin. So at least they're.
Who's that?
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
Whose schedules that?
Bama.
If Florida State's bad, when the traditional blue bloods are bad, like last year, Oklahoma was down, Michigan was down, Florida State. Traditional in the last 30, 40 years when we've all been alive, if they're down, that is not your problem. And I always say this to my grades.
Right.
Teams that beat them when schools are down, traditional powers, they should not be penalized for that. And all these talking heads go on ESPN and Fox News and say, well, you didn't play anybody. You didn't play anybody. That's not my problem that Florida State was down.
No.
We tried.
No,
you're
right.
We didn't schedule Middle Tennessee State.
No. And that's the thing, right. Exactly.
Okay, Alabama, they play, did you say Florida State?
Yeah, they start with Florida State. Then they play Louisiana Monroe, and then they play Wisconsin at home.
Okay, yeah.
So that's legitimate.
That's a lot better.
That's a lot better.
Yeah. Only other game they got on there is Eastern Illinois, I think, later this season.
Eastern Illinois is November 22nd, right before the Auburn game. It's, they schedule that win in.
You talked, Pat, this last weekend of men's regular season basketball, and then all the tournaments start next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. All the conference tournaments are gone for 6 days starting on Tuesday.
Right.
The bubble teams. And it's like you take a team that's, say, a school's like 18 wins and 12 losses right now. Okay? Of those 18 wins, Pat, probably 6 or 7 of them were scheduled wins back in November, December against schools we never even heard of.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Let's be honest.
Oh, they were. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So of those 18 wins, there's 6 or 7 that probably aren't really legitimate.
Right.
So you're not really 18 and 12. You're probably like 11 and 12.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But they want 68 teams. They want the TV money and all and all the. But so I think you hit the nail on the head. Until we get parity in our conferences, and I think in the next 2 years, you're going to see the Big Ten and SEC start to drop some of their bottom tier schools, like the Vanderbilts and the Mississippi States of the SEC and the Big Ten, maybe schools like North. I don't know about Northwest. It's hard in the Big Ten to drop schools because they're more about the markets than they are the product.
No, they're not going to do that. They're not dropping the schools. That ain't happening.
Because they want the markets, right?
They want the market, and they want the money, and they want they still want those teams in there. They're never dropping those schools. They'll keep them.
Was Vanderbilt the one that upset a couple teams?
Vanderbilt beat Bama.
Yeah, they beat somebody else too.
And they beat I got to look at. Yeah, they beat. I know they beat Bama. Yeah, Vanderbilt. But what Northwestern had to one
big market. Nashville's a big market.
And out Northwestern is Chicago.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
So they're not.
But if we ever go this AFC NFC model, though, Pat, and say 30, 35 teams, not everybody can be in, right? Between the ACC and the Big Ten, that's over 30 schools right there.
Yeah, and that's where they're going to have a problem. But they're going to. I think they want to go to that, but they're going to have a problem getting because technically, if you want to do that, you got to drop schools. And you're going to have to drop some of the name schools out, but they're not. I don't think they can do it. There's going to be too much because college football has got way too many markets than like the NFL is, what you have there. But college football has more markets than the NFL, and college football is obviously a lot different than NFL in that regard. And I just don't think they're going to I don't think they're going to drop the Vanderbilts and the Northwesterns of the world. I know what you're saying though, because if you really want to if you want to make an NFL model out of it, you just have too many teams to have two conferences.
And you got to get the best of the best.
Right.
That's what you want.
And that's what you want.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to have problems. And again, you would need a commissioner and you would really have to, figure something out, or you go, or you expand the playoffs to 16 teams. That's what I think they'll get around it. They're just going to make
there's one that happened about a month ago, and I just saw it, and maybe I missed it. Maybe you guys saw it as well. It happened probably the end of January, beginning of February. Northern Illinois is leaving the MAC to join the Mountain West Conference.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, Northern Illinois.
Okay. And they're going to go out to the Mountain West
after next year, and they're joining the Mountain West.
Probably because of the money.
Not in all sports, but just in some sports. I think like football, men's basketball, and a few other sports. But some of their other sports are going to stick around here and do be involved in the Horizon League, I think, maybe.
Yeah, so they're going to just, right. They're going to do, right. Because they're probably money.
For football
it's money. It's definitely
I would think that upset of Notre Dame helped with their name on the marquee a little bit for bigger conferences to come take a look at them, correct?
Yeah.
Right. I think so.
And that helped them.
Yeah, absolutely helps.
Yep.
Yeah, you see,
it's just like I can't keep track of all this stuff after a while.
I know.
Well, no.
Yeah, I with this everything that's going on, the old days of the Street and Smith magazine that I like to get, that you can forget that. I can see that right now. The Street and Smith. Let's go to the ACC con. That you not your traditional that you used to see.
You got California and Stanford in the ACC.
Yeah, I know.
And then obviously you got the whole mess. But now the coaches are complaining because of the travel is too much. Which
is a lot.
Especially with basketball. Football's 1 week. It's no big deal in football. But basketball, it's a problem. And then you take other sports like, women's tennis, men's tennis, the baseball, other the quote non-revenue sports that really don't bring in money. Those kids still have to get in planes and fly across the country.
Yep.
And the Rutgers girls swim or the Rutgers girls tennis or the men's tennis, they have to fly across the country to play USC and UCLA and Washington and Oregon.
Yeah.
And so they're flying back and forth.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's people forget about those other sports are impacted.
Yeah. That's why they tried to make these conferences back in the day where they were all
kind of close. So you eliminated enough travel.
Yeah. Right. Those days are over.
All those days are long gone because TV football drives the boat here.
Yep.
They're all in. Syracuse is in the ACC, not because of the basketball. They're in because of the football.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all those years they played the Big East, they had great rivals with Georgetown, St. John's, and Villanova, and Syracuse. That was a great basketball conference. Well, they didn't care about basketball. They joined the ACC for football.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yeah.
Yep.
That's 100% correct.
Yeah, that's what it's all money driven.
Oh yeah,
as we've said time and time again, it's all about green.
That's what it is.
Just follow.
I'll probably go buy me a green suit tomorrow.
Green suit, yeah.
It's all about the green.
It is.
That's for sure.
I mean, it's just I was thinking about the head coach at Alabama. Obviously, he's struggling. I don't think he struggled, but they lost 3 games, and the people in uproar after Saban left. And the year before he left Washington, the NCAA, they played the national championship game for crying out loud, and left and took the Bama job. Here's an interesting tidbit here, guys, and just kind of watch this develop in college football that 99% of people aren't talking about. But when Saban was there, Bill O'Brien was his offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
And he convinced a kid from California, a quarterback named Julian Singh, to commit and sign at Alabama.
Right.
And then Nick Saban 6 weeks later unexpectedly left, and obviously Bill O'Brien left, and he ended up on the Ohio State staff. Do you remember? For about a month and a half, he was the offensive coordinator.
Yep.
And then the Boston College job opened. He went to BC. But when Dover came down there as head coach of Alabama, he also brought with him a quarterback he had committed at Washington, a kid he really liked from the West Coast. So when he met with Julian Singh in Alabama, he met with every single player for at least an hour, at an hour meeting. Julian Singh's meeting lasted 10 minutes. Basically, the kid said that, that the head coach told him, you're free to leave and look around. We have our guy, quarterback, a guy we really liked, we brought with us from Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And Julian Singh is now at Ohio State, and he's projected to be the starting quarterback next year. Here's where I'm going with this. If Alabama continues to lose 2 or 3 games and Julian Singh lights it up and does well in that offense, Alabama fans are going to remember that, correct? And say, you chase that kid out of here.
Yep.
And that's what happened.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. They wanted him because he's not their guy.
Yes.
And that's it. I mean, that was basically it. Julian Singh wasn't the player they recruited, and they wanted to go in a different direction. And again, that happens all the time. Now at least the kids can transfer.
Had a quarterback committed to them for like 10 months.
Right.
The class of 2024, left-hander. And, when the season ended in December after the Michigan loss, he actually transferred. He's now at South Carolina, so he's already gone.
Right.
I mean, he saw the handwriting on the wall and said, I'm not sticking around for this.
No.
It's not what I signed up for.
Right. Yep.
And I think we're going to see more of that in the quarterback position anywhere else. Am I correct?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they'll be good. They'll be packing up quick.
If you got the portal the way it's structured, are you kidding me? These kids will be flying out like gone, which I don't deserve. I mean, I don't blame them because they want to play. And here's the thing with the transfer portal, and people get all upset about it. Cracks me up. Scholarships are year to year. Colleges can drop these kids after 1 year anyway.
Yeah.
So why can't the kid transfer? And people don't understand that. Oh,
They
the
don't know
transfer portal's ruining college football. No.
Because I mentioned that to somebody I was talking to. They said, what are you talking about?
No.
They got a 4-year scholarship.
No, you don't.
It's not a 4-year scholarship.
It's year to year. They can cut you loose and go in a different direction, and they do it all the time.
Yep.
You don't know it because they never bring up. But those schools years ago, SEC was notorious for over-recruiting, getting kids in, and then cutting them loose after 1 year because they got better kids.
Yeah, that's right.
And they were constantly doing that.
Yep.
When spring football ends this year, Pat, in a couple months, there's another portal that opens. I believe it's April 24th to like May 2nd. Like the end of April, there's another 8 or 9 day window where any kid can enter the portal. And that's why these schools, I think I sent you the tweet the other day, Dabo Swinney at Clemson said, we're not canceling our spring game. Tampering's going to take place whether we have a spring game or not. Like Nebraska was the first one to do it 6 weeks ago. We're not going to, and they usually get 80,000 people at their spring game. We're not going to do a spring game this year. Aren't these people just being paranoid?
Yeah.
Everybody knows about your roster.
They know.
Everybody watches film.
Right.
They can go back and watch what you did last October, November, December.
Yeah.
You know what?
They're going to do that to try to, cover up.
And the other thing is all these big time schools, Ohio State, Notre Dame, when spring practice ends, they're not going to name a starting quarterback. They're all looking for new starting quarterbacks, but the coach is going to say the competition's too close to call, right?
No.
Yeah.
Why is that, Lucia?
Right.
That's to hold on to them so they don't go.
Yeah, they don't want them to leave, right?
They don't want them to leave. And the spring games, Ohio State charged $10 a head to get in. Those people go in and buy a bunch of concessions. They buy the $10 or $12 or $15 beers and the waters and the popcorns.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. They're spending a bunch of money and they're paying $10 a head. You think Ohio State's canceling that game? Yeah, right. And how much money is that costing the university income they don't get?
A couple of million.
Easy.
It's
easy. You get 100,000 people, and Ohio State will get 100,000.
That's $1 million.
$10 a head. Do the math, and plus, believe me, I could tell you when I was down there at Ohio State, I would venture to guess people spend $100. Each person will spend $100 on drinks and everything under the sun and buying the hat and buying all the crap.
It's easy $2 to $3 million.
Exactly.
Venture that day.
Dave, I meant to tell you this. And we all learned stuff, and my buddy just told me this weekend. I did not know this. Notre Dame's starting their spring practice on Wednesday, March 19th. Okay. They backed it up a few weeks because they played so long into January. They normally start early. They'd be started by now, but they backed it up 2.5 weeks because of their long season.
Right.
And they're going to play their spring game in South Bend on Saturday, April 12th at 2:00 TV. And I said to myself, they're starting March 19th and playing the spring game April 12th. You get 15 practice. That's a lot of practices in 2.5 week windows.
Yeah.
And he said, there's no rule. And I didn't know this. He said, there's no rule that says you can't practice after your spring game. He said they're not going to have all 15 practices done by April 12th.
No.
They're actually going to practice 2 or 3 times after the spring game ends.
Oh, yeah, they could do that.
He goes, they have to be done by April 25th, but there's no rule that says you can't have practices after you conduct your spring game.
Oh, yeah, but then that's what they'll do.
Oh, yeah, one thing
I never knew that. I never.
Yeah, me either.
The spring game always ends every year, right? Yeah. When spring football game's over, spring practices are over.
When I played, I just thought that's when it was over, and it probably technically never was. No. If we wanted to practice some more, we could have.
Yeah, and he said they'll probably have 2 or 3 practices after the spring game ends.
Yeah,
wow. To accommodate, because that's their alumni weekend, and they've always played their spring game on the alumni weekend. But they didn't know they were going to play on January 20th when they set this up 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let me throw another thing out on spring game here.
Yes.
You get 100,000 people down at Ohio State.
Correct.
All right. Let's make an argument. If they spend $100 per person on stuff, that might be a little high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's $10 million.
That's right.
If they spend 50, that's $5 million.
Right.
You got another $1 million. That's like, let's make the discussion for the sake of the discussion. They're probably they're getting close to $10 million in their pocket for a spring game.
You didn't do parking.
No, I didn't even get into the parking. Throw the parking at it, okay? Now, what do you think? Do you think the schools are going to say, Adam, we don't want the $10 million. We don't want a spring game.
No.
You're a college president. You're talking to your person in finance. They're saying, yeah, we want that college game because we want that revenue.
Yeah, for sure.
We know
what drives the boat.
We know what drives the boat. And that's what cracks me up with Nebraska. We're not doing the spring game. Really?
Yeah.
I bet that lasts a year because somebody's going to call them up and say, no, you're going to do it because we just lost so many $1 million. You not having that game.
Oh, they're going to see it. You'll notice the difference of your revenue from past years to this one if you cancel that game. They'll know.
You will. That's
Rule will be quiet as a church mouse after this. He won't say anything.
He won't say anything. But I guarantee you, Ohio State.
Pat, I just Googled schools that have canceled the 2025 spring football games, and here's Ohio State for you. It says Ohio State Buckeyes. The Buckeyes won't be playing their traditional spring game this year. Ryan Day stated that the length of Ohio State's schedule factored into the decision, and said the program is exploring alternative ways to conduct its spring showcase in Columbus.
Oh, really?
So they're going to have something like. You know how the NFL has their Pro Bowl now? They do.
Yeah, they're going to. Yeah,
that's what more schools are talking about doing.
Right,
making it fun.
Yeah, they make it fun, but you're going to be paying for that.
Yeah, you're going to pay for it.
You're going to pay something.
At the end of the day, okay, the translation that tells me one thing. That just tells me we're not really going to do the spring game, but we're going to do something else to generate the money.
Oh, that's right.
Because at the end of the day, they're just looking at an alternative way to generate that $10 or $12 million.
Now they have them running around in shorts. They'll have people coming to watch that.
They are going to figure out a way to get people to pay $10 and then let them buy all the concessions and park their cars because they don't want to let go of that money.
All they're doing is eliminating the contact.
That's it.
That's all.
That's all they're doing. Great.
Hey, Dave, Pat, have a great week.
Thank you, Irish Mike. Turn your clock up. Don't forget.
Oh, yeah. Spring forward.
Spring forward.
Yes.
Saturday morning sports space. Spring forward. Do not drink. Do not drive. Stay sober and buckle up. Saturday morning sports page, Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. Have a great and a safe week, everybody.